Hello everyone. Today we'll be covering a few of the darkest headlines from recent news. Starting around Easter Sunday, a 49-year-old woman was severed in half after being struck in a hit-and-run Sunday morning in Dade City, Florida. The Florida Highway Patrol said that troopers responded at 3:30 a.m. to the crash where the woman was struck by a driver as she walked along the grassy roadside of the 301 south of Desrosier Road, the Tampa Bay Times reported. So this story is actually a combination of two crimes, one very serious and one minor, one relatively minor, but still quite horrifying. Police said the driver fled in a sedan, hit a traffic sign, and went back on the road on the highway for a brief moment before veering off again and running over the woman's body, which was severed as a result. Over an hour later, another driver in a pickup truck ignored police orders to stop and drove into the crash scene at a high speed, running over the woman's body and nearly hitting two deputy officers. Florida Highway Patrol troopers and Pasco County deputies were present at the hit-and-run scene. You know, as someone who's occasionally a pedestrian who has to walk on a narrow margin of some road to get where I'm going, it is scary to think about. On a busy street, 60 cars can pass you in a couple minutes, but it just takes one person to make a mistake or do something intentionally. The pickup truck driver, identified by police as 23-year-old Andrew Thomas Crumman, didn't stop, which prompted cops to go after him in a high-speed chase that lasted about 10 minutes before catching him. Police are still investigating the initial hit-and-run incident and searching for the driver who escaped, but arrested Crumman and detained him in Pasco County Jail. So the killer is still at large, at least as of the time of this article being posted. I'm not sure if updates have been applied. The 23-year-old was charged with aggravated assault with a motor vehicle upon a law enforcement officer, reckless driving, DUI, fleeing and eluding, destruction of evidence, and driving with a revoked license, according to the Tampa Bay Times. Wow, oh, I didn't even get this far. He was also charged with false imprisonment of two passengers, a 33-year-old Brooksville man and a 35-year-old Dade City woman, who were with him in the vehicle and tried to flag down police officers, according to Fox 8. Wow. Well, let's move on from this. You get the picture on that, and the source is there if you'd like to read more. Here's our second story. Court documents reveal Johnson & Johnson injected black prisoners with asbestos in the 70s. That is quite a dark headline. Court documents unsealed during the Johnson & Johnson talcum powder litigation reveal that the company funded a 1971 study in which Pennsylvania prisoners, most of them African American, were injected subcutaneously with asbestos. Knowledge of the experiments has been public for some time, but J&J's involvement has only just been recognized according to Bloomberg. This news comes after unsealed documents were released in recent J&J lawsuits, which found the company knew for decades that asbestos lurked in some of its baby powder products. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, the questions surrounding asbestos-contaminated talcum powder have been raised since the 1970s. From 1972 to 1975, J&J failed to inform the FDA that at least 3 tests of their baby powder came back showing rather high levels of asbestos. Interesting. So why were they testing prisoners? Were they testing the talcum powder and then knowing that it had significant asbestos? Why would you need a subcutaneous injection on a human prisoner? The company said it deeply rejects the conditions under which these studies were conducted, also adding, at the time of these studies, nearly 50 years ago, testing of this nature among this cohort set, that's a very polite euphemism for African-American prisoners, was widely accepted, included by prominent researchers, leading public companies, and the U.S. government itself. Funded by entities like Dow Chemical, J&J, and the U.S. government, hundreds of prisoners were experimented on by University of Pennsylvania dermatologist Albert Klingman. Participants were paid from $10 to $300 to take part in the experiments, said Alan Hornblum, an ex-prison social worker turned journalist. Knowledge of these experiments became public in 1998 after Mr. Hornblum released his book, Acres of Skin. That's a dark title. I like it. Acres of Skin, exposing many experiments conducted over the course of 2 decades without formal consent. That's incredible. The source is there if you'd like to read more. I may return to this one privately because that is really incredible, so horrible. For our third story, bullied junior high school girl froze to death to escape torment. Frankly, I read this article. I attempted to read it as part of this recording no fewer than 5 times, but I kept hitting sentences that would not be acceptable on YouTube. This is a truly horrible story involving SA and possibly self-ending of a young girl in Japan. I encourage you to read it with that trigger warning made explicit. It is quite horrible, but I simply have to move on. I can't read it here myself. You have the source in the video and in the text at the bottom of the video. Moving on to our fourth story. Teen charged with murder after sister 10 dies in Loganville house fire. A 15-year-old boy is accused of intentionally setting a fire that killed his 10-year-old sister, who was trapped inside her bedroom in their Loganville home on Easter Sunday, officials said. Gwinnett County Police are investigating the girl's death as a homicide. She was identified by family as Zoe McHugh. The teenage boy was taken into custody Sunday afternoon after hours of searching for him, as the family and firefighters believed he was still inside the burning home on Beaver Road. Oh wow, so he was missing. He had fled the scene possibly, and they were searching for him as the house burned. Wow. The brother, whose name was not released, is charged with malice murder, and felony murder, according to police. I'm not sure what malice murder is specific. I don't want to guess. It sounds like it may be first degree or something relating to that, but I don't want to guess, according to police. Arson charges are pending the completion of the fire department's investigation. Firefighters continued to sift through the charred debris for hours looking for the 15-year-old boy. He was found safe around 9 a.m. at another location and did not appear to have any injuries. So that answered my other question, whether he had ever even turned up. So firefighters arrived at 5 a.m. and then the boy was found at 9 a.m. At this time, it has been determined the fire was set intentionally by a sibling of the deceased victim, a police spokesperson said in a statement. I wonder exactly how they know that. I wonder how that can be made clear. Gwinnett police detectives are working closely with arson investigators throughout the duration of this investigation. Wow, we'll have to follow that one. I'm curious what evidence they have that this 15-year-old absolutely murdered his sister. That's what they seem to be saying. Or at least what their predominant theory is. I wonder how they know that. Well, thank you all for joining me for this first attempt. The audio and the edits may be a little rough. I appreciate your patience as I continue to practice more journalistic and news-related dark content. Thanks again. Bye-bye.